Hello and welcome to TFT NA Regional Finals, set 9.5, final day, game number 2.
Thank
Okay.
you. Give me
I
the
mean,
gold.
look, I'm kind of down, but also, come on.
You're down for the house. You're down for the crown that sits on your bench and doesn't do anything except make sure that Robin loses to creeps on stage 3.
It adds some interesting elements for sure. I mean, yes, it does sit on the bench a lot, but it is a lot of power when you do get it into play. So if you can find a good safe way to play it, it's kind of sick. I just think it's funny that replay just griefs everybody all the time on these portals. I think replay, I don't know if he does it because he feels confident on these ones, or he just knows that everyone else will be less confident than him on these kind of like niche portals. But
There's
it's
two
very
ways to think
funny
about
to
it.
watch.
Which honestly, I think in a game theory perspective, it's pretty good. Which is he knows that what he's doing is not the absolute literal best thing you can do, but that it's very reliable and that it's very strong. So the less power that others have, the wider of a gap of an edge that you have in general. So why wouldn't you vote for the thing that makes everybody else not stronger when you know that you're going to be consistently at one line of power level? Don't let them get stronger, and as a result, you're in a better spot because of it. I think it's pretty simple and brilliant.
Fair enough, but instead end up on Ecliptic. Everyone gonna have a lot more gold. That's about it. You know, you get
like that
gold
one.
every time an Ogden gets picked. And jumped on with Soju, got first place in the very first game here today. Really well done on the Vanquisher's line. And once again, he's got an early game Ash. We'll see if he pops Tome, goes for Ionia once again, or we'll see what options are given. But I know Soju has actually trended towards that composition more and more as this tournament has gone on. I think maybe looking for more consistent top 4s versus the biggest high roll potential.
It's interesting to see like how you're going to end up playing this as well, because top 3 points end up with the most. So when you start strong, I'd say that like you have I think a little bit more strength with a more consistent strategies the boss gets offered. This has typically been a pretty decent augment for players, but I think he wants a little bit more power for it, and this is demonstrated here. Freljord Emblem.
Yeah, Freljord's interesting. I mean, it's pretty good, but it's not as like
Slayer.
high cap, high power. Slayer, I do like. I feel like the Damacia Slayer line has actually been quite good. And if you're playing it from the Slayer early on, there's also some good AD items on the bench for Soju. Quinn actually has a really good chance of top 4ing from this, item and emblem spot that Soju has. It's just a matter of finding that early Quinn, getting the Mordekaiser online. The comp definitely can look for wins. We actually saw someone reroll both Quinn and Rek'Sai and find a first place yesterday.
Casper.
So yeah, it was Casper. You're right. So I think Soju can still kind of look either for rerolling the 3 costs a lot more heavily or pushing the levels, playing around the Quinn, playing around the Mordekaiser. I think Slayer is actually maybe a little bit of an underrated spatula to get.
I mean, I could definitely agree with you. It's not going to have like these fantastic, blow you out of the water finishes with it, but definitely immediately when you go look at, any sort of stats aggregate stuff, a Slayer emblem is going to be in above average spot. So how you take advantage of that and when you get it and how you get it, I also think could be a big difference in that as well. Like the later you're getting it, naturally the higher your average placement is going to be, you're later in the game. When you have it super early on, and this is still happening, that's usually bodes pretty well. And when I look across the board at the emblem on the 13.20 B patch, it has about the average win rate, top 4 rate, and above average placement that I think you're looking for. It's like, hey, if you get this early, it's a pretty decent one. Now we look over at Toronto Tokyo's spot. He shared a high average placement with Wajan Iverson coming into this game. However, they both went bot 4. He's opened up with a Damacia crest on this one. That is usually what we've been seeing have very strong performances throughout the course of the tournament so far. They have super high win rates between Wajan Iverson and Toronto Tokyo with this.
Wow, and Wajan actually pushed to level 5 with a fully 1-star board. This is a pretty weak board to be playing after pushing to 5 and trying to win. And Toronto Tokyo may be able to punish this early level. So they take this win, and it looks like Wajan will get there. A very close fight between these two, but Wajan ends up finding this win. Still very close, but does get it. And Toronto Tokyo, I mean, I just want to call out, he has had so much success with this Damacia line when he finds it early. Toronto Tokyo has found 2 first places with 9 Damacia, but he's both times fell very low and was able to just barely hold on, get to the 9 Damacia and get there. But it's because Toronto Tokyo has been so good at saving HP when he needs to, and making really good plays happen in the late game, stabilizing on stage 3, stage 4, so that he can find that spot to go to 9 and play for 9 Damacia. So we'll see if he hits the second emblem. That's the big factor that can come in this game.
Yeah, I think that with the Freljord emblem here, this is a really big indicator of where Wei Jin Iverson's board is typically going to be headed. You're looking at wanting to have Sejuani in play, and if you're going to have Sejuani in play, it's you're typically want to have Ash in play. So where does that leave your composition after that? I think the easiest one to put together is probably Vanquisher. However, we have been seeing a lot of lines with Bruisers do this as well. But the Bruiser one requires you to have a Bruiser +1 usually, which is very difficult to just put together. You usually have to find it through some sort of connection. So since he doesn't have that, it's where is really his power going to come from? I think it's like level 7, level 8. So try to get as much gold and as much health as you can right now, build up the rest of the gold, and then get to 8 or 7 as quickly as possible with a ton of gold to start your board. I think that's pretty much a straightforward strategy from Wei Jin Iverson, and I think that this pretty much plays into how his top 4 rate really works, as well as how his win rate really works that as well. Like super high win rates because he takes these things that I think by others are considered very risky spots. But risky spots with high payoffs, those are great to take.
Yeah, I mean, he's very consistently sacked stage 3, so we see him go pretty aggressive here in stage 2. Then he may just sack stage 3, lose a lot of health there, but, lose streak, get a bunch of gold, and then, stage 4, when he can actually start leveling up to 7, leveling up to 8, trying to find that Sejuani, find those Vanquishers. I think that's where we'll see him spike, so watch out for that. But T-Lides, this is what I want to look at, is actually being able to grab that spatula. When we're talking about Earth players, spatula on the carousel becomes a lot higher priority. T-Lides was able to grab it. Just trying to take a look at the open components that he has. It looks like he has a bow and a tier. It looks like he's on a Vanquisher to start things out. So whoa, there it is. I mean, he could just try and go another +1 Vanquisher, or what we've seen more commonly is find a +1 Ionia to go alongside the +1 Vanquisher.
Yeah, we saw the 6 Vanquisher get ticked down quite a bit, and with the way that the Vanquisher units line up with Ionia, it's really hard to get 6 Ionia in play unless you're running like kind of a weird Ionia like Aurelia at the end. It's just not really going to do very much. So when you're able to make an Ionia spatula with a Vanquisher spatula, all 5 of the Vanquishers kind of naturally fit and play pretty well with each other. So I think this is a great idea here from T-Lides to go this direction, and this can open up some weird avenues as well. Like say your next 2 augments go pretty well, and you're just sitting hefty on top of the world, big streak, lots of gold, good health. Like you have everything open to you at that point.
Yeah, I mean, he'll be contesting Wei Jin, and it makes me wonder if Wei Jin will consider going towards the kind of build route with the Vanquishers, with the build Freljord, playing towards the Neela. I mean, really, it's just going to come down to what he hits, but I imagine he'll at least be more open to it. As Wei Jin actually loses his win streak going into Krugs, he was trying to hold on to that from the very start. Soju actually going to have the best win streak right now. He's the only one holding on to a full win going into these Krugs. But we look at Darthnub and Replay, both at 4 loss, and Darthnub, I mean, that's a pretty weak board, but he does have some items slammed on the Kale, so I make it a little bit more difficult as Replay's been able to get his items off the board.
Oh no! This is like a weird game of chicken right now.
Oh wait, Darthnub's power, look, it says 0. Yeah, he's full sold, he full sold. Replay sold his board as well, and they don't even fight each other, so okay, it's just gonna be losses for both of them. Oh, it looks like Darthnub actually ended up keeping a Galio, so if he had run into Replay, Darthnub would not have been able to keep his loss streak, so he's got to be grateful that he runs into somebody else, even though it is a big chunk of damage that they're each taking to keep that.
I like how he's like, I'm not selling the Galio, man. He just refuses to sell the Galio on that.
Like, hey, I need that one. I need this one Galio.
Yeah, so that's a hefty amount of life that they have paid, and this is kind of like, one of the incidental consequences of people playing for strong boards is that when you're trying to lose streak and people are playing their strongest board, this is going to happen more often. Like yesterday, we saw players like having lose streaks where they're at like 71 health after 5 lose streaks and 75 health and stuff like that. But if everyone's trying to play a super strong board, you're going to find yourself in spots like this where instead you're at 66, you're at 58. This is greatly reducing that time window to get your board together and really make something of it. So right now it's looking like all of them are going to go multicasters at this point. So I'm prepared on 3-2 for them to pretty much spend everything they have and try to recover this. I mean, do you see another plan? This feels like it'd be like almost suicidal to go another spot at that point.
I'm curious if anyone will just send it on 3-1 instead out of these two, try and beat the other person to the roll down, see if you can pick up some of the extra units.
Ooh.
We're gonna see Darthnub. I mean, definitely Darthnub and Replay are just playing for multis. We saw the items initially. It does feel like they're both just on that line, and we've seen a lot less success from the loss streak with multis just because of the fact that it's such a contested comp. You run out of time to put it together. So the fact that they're both loss streaking, both on the multis line, looks like Darthnub will hold. He's going to hold the 3-2 before he actually sends. But also, Darthnub has been more consistently willing to wait a little bit longer on stage 3 versus Replay, who likes to send it down a lot harder. They both held on to their gold on 3-1, so 3-2 will be the time that they go to 6 and start sending it. And I'm curious if they'll both spend a ton of gold or if Darth Nub will hold a little bit longer.
I think it's going to come down, I think, to how you end up hitting, right? Like, if you don't hit anything, I feel like you got to keep going. If you're at 30 gold and you have, like, pairs of everything, that feels like a terrible spot to hold your gold.
Yeah, I mean, Darth Nub just took another big hit, too. I don't think he has time to wait at all.
Yeah.
I know sometimes he's like to wait a little bit longer, spend a lot of his gold later, but this is just a 0.45 HP. Darth Nub replay. Both can be sent it. Too healthy offered for Darth Nub.
Wow.
He's already on this line. That's exactly what he wants to see. Couple Twisted Fates already. Wow, Paravel'Koz is there. The upgraded TF, upgraded Talia. He's hitting everything he needs right now. Just one more Vel'Koz, and this just looks phenomenal.
Oh, Jarvan!
Jarvan? That's huge. He doesn't find a Sona, so he doesn't have the Damacia online just yet, but still, a great roll down for the likes of Darth Nub. Replay does find the Twisted Fate upgrade, but no Vel'Koz as of yet. Still more time. There's the Vel'Koz in the shop. Can he get there with the rest of it, though? Feels like Darth Nub did hit, but he rolled a lot quicker. Replay taking his time, holding on to some additional gold.
I wonder what replay... I saw that he had a tome on his bench. It looked like it came from Krugs.
Yeah, it looks like it. It does look like he grabbed a tome off of Krugs, unless it came from the augment. I didn't actually see replay's augment.
Well, his augment's the Capricious Gloves.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we see. Wait, he's fighting now. Yeah, Capricious Gloves. So you're right. It must have been from Krugs. There's
those
this
are
pick,
not
Noxus.
good. Yeah, that's a Pandora's... emblem right now.
He's just gonna roll for Sorcerer then. He found one that can be crafted, right, but with a spatula, so he can look for Sorcerer.
Yeah, I
he's
think
gotta
that's
hope
really
that
the
he
only
finds it
place
quick
got
enough.
left.
Yeah.
So these looked like pretty great roll downs from Darth Nub and replay, but honestly, I think that these were pretty... This looked like it was pretty bad for replay, and it looked like it was pretty, I'd say, reasonable for Darth Nub. Darth Nub had some good outcomes to it, but it's not quite all there. Like, you still want a few more things to go along with it, so I'm kind of curious to see where these end up going at the end of the day. Really, the big hit for Darth Nub was Too Healthy. That was a massive pickup for that one. And you see Wei Iverson going for Shoplifting as his augment. That's to supplement the fact that he was kind of bouncing back and forth what he's doing and being so aggressive with his gold. He's going to need to be able to find some big stuff pretty quickly, and that's why I think that Econ augment ends up being so good for him. It's just consistent throughout the rest of the game. At the rest of the lobby, though, Soju is really the star player right now. He's still on a win streak after the augment on 3-2, and if that continues going into this carousel, I think that Soju's going to find himself in a position to have back-to-back top 3 finishes.
Yeah, and Soju, if I remember correctly, he was kind of angled towards the Ionia line at the start of this game. Maybe we'll get a chance to see where he's at now, but I did see that he picked up Not Today, so he's actually going for the Edge of Nights as well for this composition. And if you have 2 of those, it actually is just a ton of value on your Vanquishers. Getting that attack speed and just giving that extra survivability. It especially feels good on Neela to have a Not Today Neela.
Yeah, it really it's a lot different than just having Edge of Night
He's on the
in
Slayers,
general.
that's right. It's actually quite good for Slayers too. It's really good on Mordekaiser.
Yeah, it's a lot different than just having Edge Knight in general. Edge Knight's great at protecting like your key damage units. When you start getting extra attack speed because of it, it opens up a lot of different avenues. And I was just about to mention that you like Mordekaiser, for instance, you almost certainly prioritize attack speed items on him. It's like your QSS, RFC, Nashor's Tooth, things like that. When you suddenly have like an entire barrier of protection that also gives you attack speed, it greatly changes the way that you can end up building your team out, and it gives you so much more damage. Because you have those extra avenues open, you can be a little bit more aggressive with your gold as long as you know which direction you want to go. Now, if there's a player I think that is going to know what direction they want to go, it's Soju. He plays more than just about anyone else in the world. It's really not much of a surprise to see him in a place like this, and frankly, this is one of the avenues it opens too, is being able to suit up things like Azir, because Edge of Night suddenly turns into an attack speed item. Like, this is a very unusual thing where suddenly it works incredibly well because of the way that you're suited up with augments. This is an unusual change that's super beneficial. I'm so glad that he recognized this. I had to watch like 100 million streams to find something like this. When I saw it, I was like, this seems kind of weird. And then I went and looked at started stuff on Tactics Tools, and I was like, wow, this ends up working perfectly. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he's finally going to lose his win streak here. I mean, looking at his board, it looks relatively weak. He didn't find upgrades on this roll down, but he's very far ahead of the curve as far as HP, right? This is his first loss of the game. Because of that win streak, he had so much extra gold. And now he's starting to find a lot of pairs. You see he's got the pair of Quins, he's got the pair of Rek'Sai's, pair of Jarvans, now a pair of Azirs, but he doesn't really want to play Azir this game. He's really looking for Mordekaiser, and actually he's kind of low rolling the hits on the forecast because he's rolled so much gold at this point, and he's not finding the forecast he wants. And there's finally a Mordekaiser. This is a huge hit, trying to be able to move towards 6 Slayer. Already had that Kiana available, so is going to be able to get there once selling out of this Azir. And this is a big spike. You want to get 6 Slayer, 5 Damacia. The big thing that he's looking for is actually going to be a Fiora that usually you would play the Slayer on. She actually feels like a pretty real unit with Slayer on, which makes it interesting that it was put onto this Galio. There is a replacement on the bench, but will kind of need to be remade or a remover found at that point once you can, find that Fiora.
Yeah, the question is just who do you give the Slayer emblem to right now? Like, I'm not willing to sacrifice 6 Slayer value.
Right, of course, it has to go in.
Yeah, so just sticking with Galio, it's the easiest one to replace because of the bench. But that's a super important point to make, is how it feels once you have the Slayer emblem on Fiora. And then not only that, you're also getting the not today. So it's kind of resuiting that protection barrier she had from being invulnerable during the previous patch, where they took that away and instead turned it into flat damage reduction. When they changed it instead to be flat damage reduction, it felt like she was super vulnerable and underperformed as a result of it. I feel like Not Today is a way to pick her back up and make her like a reasonable champion to use at that point. And 6 Slayer is a massive boost. So I 100% agree with you. An unusual line that I'm excited to see if Soju's able to capitalize on that and find himself in a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, very notably, he actually had another Edge of Night on the bench there, right? He had a sword in a belt, or a sword and a vest on the bench, so pretty massive.
Wow.
To be able to find that, and really good tank items getting pulled off of Wolves, actually. Soju, that's great. Finds the upgrade. Oh, that is such a roll. And at this point, he's like, okay, no Fiora, whatever. This just goes on Jarvan. He's just gonna have, he's gonna have a little extra damage coming through for himself. He's just got to get that Slayer in anyways. And wow, that's a really big spike for Soju. I mean, still missing the Quinn too. I think he'd like to have that, but just gonna go with the Edge of Night on her, give her some extra damage, attack speed there, and make sure she doesn't die to ambient damage. But this is a very big hits for someone who was already in the lead on HP, and so now he's got time to potentially start moving towards level 8.
Oh my gosh. It's so insane. Like he is Crown Guard and Edge of Night on a Mordekaiser that now has bonus attack speed as a result of it. Like, this Mordekaiser's insane right now. And so for this, I'm glad that Soju's slowing down. He doesn't really have to do too much, I think, to really increase the power level of this. I think he can start saving up gold and then, try to strike at the right moment from this spot. Again, this is like a super unusual line that it was first brought to my attention by watching Frodan review VODs from China, where somebody was toying around with 6 Slayer lines, and so I started deliberately searching for players trying to play 6 Slayer. It's just so rare. And then when I found it, I was like, that sparked my interest to kind of start delving into and trying to figure out where this actually came from and what it actually does. And this is just, like, I think, a pretty perfect execution of what I've seen of it so far.
Wow, and taking a look, Toronto Tokyo hasn't been able to find a second Damacia emblem. However, a very powerful 7 Damacia board right now. We've seen Kai'Sa be kind of a poor carry, but a lot of players, they hit the 2-star Kai'Sa and she becomes a good mid-game unit with Damacia, right? Give her a Radiant item. I think JG perfect to synergize with this Radiant Guard Breaker. And it's making Toronto Tokyo very strong for stage 4. And we can see these Mordekaisers on the bench and the Azirs. Those want to replace this Kai'Sa once they're 2-star.
Yeah, this loss right here, I think this is definitely like the missing Fiora. Like, where's Fiora at? Sort of spot there. I really like the 7 Damacia thing too. Like, that power level ends up shooting up quite a bit while you're using placement holders until you're able to get to the 7 Damacia 4 Slayer. Like, that's a huge spike if you can get to that point. And replay spot, I was mentioning it where it's like, it felt like a lot of things were there, but it was missing the actual hits on these spots. This was so much gold that replay and Darth Nub spent, and it felt like they didn't connect the dots with all these things in place. Replay sitting at, this is 3 HP right now. Like, this is a disaster for all things considered. This lobby didn't feel like it was that high in power.
Yeah, I mean, I think he might have just rolled into the Sork emblem just now. He was rolling for it for a while. We saw him take that early tome off of Krugs that he got. Now he's got 6 Sorcerer online, so it is a power spike, but his front line is just falling apart to Milk's Vanquisher. Replay going down on 4-3, a very early exit to game 2 after a very solid first game. And yeah, just him and Darth being contested on the multis, contesting each other, but coming from that loss streak. And we called out, this has not been a successful comp from loss streak in this tournament. It is far too contested for you to not have that HP buffer.
It's really not that contested in this lobby, though. You know, on ladder at this point, you were seeing, 4 players minimum go for this line. In this tournament, it's been a lot different, where it's been basically, 2 players dedicated going that direction, and then several players sometimes additionally for that. For this lobby, it's Darthnub and it's Replay that are defaulting that area.
Well,
everybody else is going like, yeah, Connor definitely will lean that direction, and in this game he did. But it's like, it's crazy to see that he just had that little after rolling. What was it? I think it was like 65 gold that he rolled.
Yeah, I mean, he rolled an immense amount of gold, but, trying to make it to the 3 stars when there's 2 other players on your units is, not exactly reasonable even through that amount of gold. And, Replay's done a good job of stabilizing on the 2 stars, but this lobby, it just did not happen. I think not having the buffer early game, not hitting early enough and hard enough, definitely made a huge difference. And going to 7, not really finding much. The 6 Sorcerer was like a good attempt, but just could not get there. And the power level of this lobby, I think, just being too high. I think, Soju with the Slayer board quite good. Toronto Tokyo having that very strong Damacia board. Looking at Milk here, we've seen how powerful this Karma is with the Vanquisher, and we're going to see a big shot there from her once again. And Connor going to take a huge hit. All 3 of our multicasters might hold hands 6th, 7th, 8th. Darthnub, I believe, was in the best spot earlier, but looks like he's even losing his fight as well.
Missing an item on this Vel'Koz that's suited up as well. The Milk line too, where we saw the 6 Vanquisher, 6 Ionia, it's like almost a mirror image of his last attempt at this, where he went 8th place, but he just didn't have all the items put together. And like in this one, it's the Karma that's holding the Vanquisher emblem instead of an Ionia emblem on a Neela. And because of that, he can now suit up the Karma, and she's having crazy bursts to backlines at times because she has a super high crit rate. You look here at T-Lide's board, it's a very similar thing that's happening. It's got a Karma suited up with a Vanquisher spatula. She's very good at holding this because she can incidentally hold these AP items and have big critical strikes. When they have to bunch up the backline like that because of Sona, you're getting a lot of value if this Karma is able to critically strike that backline. That's why this Vanquisher spat performs well on Karma. It's not because Karma's very good, it's because when everybody's bunched up, you get big hits sometimes.
Yeah, and it's actually funny because Necro was calling out just how the Vanquishers have really good backline access because of Xayah, but it really has been Karma in this tournament that has been eating up these multicasters, and we've seen it over and over again now in these first 2 games.
Yeah, Xayah is able to get close to sniping down that full backline, just needs that little bit of help. That little bit of help takes it over the line. Look at Wage and Iverson's doing the same thing here too.
Yeah.
This is weeks of me watching all of these players' VODs to figure this out. I'm like, wow, they all do this on Karma, and then slow down to half speed and watch it. There you go. It's because Karma critically strikes that club.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually still a very contested line in this lobby, but I think the multicasters just got the short end of the stick as far as being contested and not hitting. Whereas I think the slightly weaker Ionia Vanquisher lines, because they're contested, not hitting everything, are still just doing better into these multicaster boards that are not fully hitting, right? I think the matchup is really good for them. So even if they're not on fully optimal boards, the multicasters also aren't on fully optimal boards, and so they still win this matchup. And it's letting them all float above the HP of, Replay, Darthnub, and Connor. And now, I mean, Darthnub's board, right? We're at this point where he's got this incredibly strong Jarvan in the front line. He does have the 4 multis here, and he's got 3 items on the Vel'Koz, so maybe he can start to put something together. I think the 3rd strategist getting in there is massive for the AP, but he's still not on upgraded Sona or upgraded Twisted Fate, and I think that's a lot of damage lost.
It is definitely some damage lost. The big one was that he was missing 4 components as we rolled into this final spot of the stage. He's finally got the 3rd item on Vel'Koz and prioritized the mana onto Sona. The attack speed you get from Sona supplements the damage of the Vel'Koz there. That's why you want it to be in that spot. This is such a from behind spot that Darthnub is having to play from, and despite that, it's able to hold together a bit. Soju, look at this Mordekaiser!
Not today!
Gosh!
Not today!
Holy smokes!
Mord's still gonna take him down. These Edge of Nights have looked great in the Slayer composition. I mean, Mord has loved this item, and with Not Today, the attack speed he also gets is huge. Mord is popping off for Soju.
Wow, tough spot here for Toronto Tokyo on which way you want to go. In a spot like this, he's going to sacrifice the Mord and say, you know what, I'm going to stick to Azir for this one. It's just kind of an inappropriate spot, I think, to prioritize the Mordekaiser here. You're still missing so much, I think, for that to work. So I think this is a pretty strong call from this. And the reason that little dummy's there is because he's trying to figure out which side he wants to go to, I think. And then from there, he's going to, suit up that final piece of his board. This is a big fight for Toronto Tokyo, though, here against Milk.
Yeah, he's just trying to hold on to HP and bleed out slower than a lot of other players. I feel like Toronto Tokyo has made it to the best spot he really can, and I think that the Azir with the Sona getting the attack speed is maybe the best he can put onto the board, and he's really hoping, I think, for like a 4th or a 5th from this spot, unless he gets randomly bailed out by something on the carousel, but I don't think he has enough gold for that to really make too much of a difference, right? He would need like a Damacia emblem on carousel plus have enough gold to level.
Regent Iverson, 2 loss streak right now at level 9 with 3 Freljord in play. 3 Freljord, such a big difference from the 2 Freljord as well. This is something I feel like that we haven't really seen come up very much because it's just so rare that you end up getting a Freljord emblem or even furthermore, a spot to take a Freljord emblem in this one. But on 4-2, he got the Ionia Spatula, which let him go this way, and he decided that the biggest cap he could get was justifiably getting in these 3 Freljords. Right now, it hasn't had the payoff, but he's still got time to do it because he's got a pretty healthy amount of life still.
Yeah, he's even got his Aatrox, the best necks in at all times for the level 9. So he'll be able to get that Darkened Blade helping out either with the front line or the late game 1v1s happening. And looks like he's able to just chew through Connor with this level 9 board. Not close. And Connor, our next multicaster player to fall, can Darthnub complete these 6, 7, 8 multicasters holding hands? We'll see. T-Lide's going to race him towards the bottom.
It just looked like a tough one for Connor there. Was that parting gifts on the 3rd augment?
Yeah, that is parting gifts. That's certainly not something he wanted to have.
That is not a good pan out for it. It's just, I feel like he's lacking items in this spot too. It's like, it's really tough to say. That is not a good spot here for Connor, I think, at the end of the day. And, just not really much he can make of that. Just trying to do as best he can, and just everyone else is hanging on here. We have, I'd say 3 relatively healthy players here still at the stage 5 carousel, and 3 players that, could have theoretically 2 hits left. So this is, I'd say, a fairly unusual spot for everyone to be in at this point. So T-Lides here does not have the power to go to 9. He says just going to roll here at 8, make the most of it right now. And I think when you look around the rest of the lobby, this is absolutely justified. If you try to stay on 8 and then get to 9 here from this spot, like T-Lides he's just going to die with 40 gold in the bank.
Yeah, not even able to find Xayah 2, so T-Lide's definitely in a rough spot. See who he goes up against. It's going to be Toronto Tokyo, one of our other players that's struggling. And while, you see Damacia and you're like, wow, this board must be incredibly strong. 7 Damacia at this point has been outscaled by a lot of the boards. I'm not sure if T-Lides can get there, though, because he's still carrying an Ashe 2. His front line's living for a long time. I mean, that Shen is tanking up very well, and the Azir is stuck on it, so it looks like this might still be a win. The Karma and the Ashe doing enough. Toronto Tokyo going to fall. Darthnub hangs on, so not all the multicasters will be holding hands this time, but Toronto Tokyo taking another bot 4, and this is going to allow Weijin to pull away from him a little bit in the AVP, especially if Weijin can find a top 2 finish.
Yeah, Weijin was slightly ahead, like barely ahead, just by a hair, and now suddenly it's way different because Weijin is in a situation to actually win the lobby at this point, but there are players who are starting to catch up and challenge that. Milk is going to be one of them here. He just went to 9, and his items are still pretty insane. And again, the big difference here is, honestly, I'm going to be perfectly clear. Almost everything here is a big difference from Milk in his previous game. His previous game was pretty aggressive and just didn't really have a lot of moving parts. In this one, he's able to suit up the Karma. In this one, he's got a Contagion for the 3rd emblem. In this one, he's got Bulk, so he can make use of random items wherever they go. Milk is in a much better spot in the previous game. I think it's clear. And it's just like, this is a spot that can contest him, but he still needs a few more parts, and he needs to not have a Karma critically strike his entire board when that happens.
Yeah, I mean, the worst case was running into Weijin here. Weijin went to 9, actually found some good upgrades, has potentially the strongest board in the lobby right now, and then Milk runs face first into it, so Milk now in a lot of trouble. Soju also taking a loss. T-Lides and Darthnub actually hanging on. It seems like Soju was actually pushing to play 2 Mordekaisers. I don't know if he has both of them at 2-star yet, so that can be a big difference as well. If you take a look at Darthnub, I mean, really, this is still just the multicaster board. He's just been able to piece together a good front line. He's got good itemization for the Sona. And I think having the Gangplank has made a little bit of a difference, being able to get that additional CC and, get the cleanse on his backline as well.
Yeah, and the 2 healthy changed his game plan here quite a bit. Like, instead of trying to sit there and re-roll for Vel'Koz and hoping, instead he just went up because of the 2 healthy. that he has, so he's super incentivized to get extra units in play. And we talked about this earlier too, is that suiting up an Azir has a great benefit in that lineup in general. You have a ton of burst to kind of clear out some units, and then the Azir has the ability to keep ramping over those long fights and make sure that you have all that taken care of. So 2 healthy is carrying so much weight in this game so far, and Darthnub finding himself in a top 4 spot here, I think would be fantastic, considering that he has a 5th place in the first game. If he has a top 4 in this game, it's all going to be balancing out, and then he has 4 more games to fire those bullets.
Yeah, Darthnub going against the double Mordekaiser. They are both upgraded, but one of them kind of stuck on some AD items. Still, though, it's double not today Mordekaiser trying to break through this front line, but the Jarvan is just too tanky for now. Both Mords have survived. Not today value coming through. A couple more auto attacks. Can he take down the Vel'Koz? One more. He can't get it. He can't get it, and it's just down to an Aatrox. How many times have we seen this? How many times have we seen this, Admirable?
No way.
Is he doing? He does not. Soju gonna be taken down, but just barely. Darthnub lives. Soju finishes in the top 4 as T-Lides takes a 5th.
3 HP is the difference in that. 3 HP. We saw Soju get first and T-Lides get second in the first game. Now we're seeing Soju get 4th, T-Lides get 5th place in the second game here. T-Lides is just right behind Soju in every single game on this one. Literally 3 HP over the course of the entire game is the difference in that one. That is crazy to think that there's one round somewhere in the game that could have had that big of an impact.
Now, Darthnub and Milk, we're looking at these 2 boards, but it is going to be that fight that we were just seeing the preview of, Darthnub versus Milk. Milk, we were talking about how Vanquishers can be so good into the multis. We have to see the cast from Karma. Will it make it towards that backline? As we see the big shot, but it doesn't take them down. The multis survive. One more cast. Oh, it went off. It would have hit all 3, but she falls just before, and Darthnub holds on for a top 2 here as Milk goes out in 3rd.
Wow, and Wage Iverson's board is stacked. This is 2-star Scion with Freljord. He's working on the Aatrox here. He's denying Vel'Koz. It's like Darthnub has a mountain to climb, it feels like, but this is a 2 healthy with multicasters that we're talking about. So these critically strike damage effects can come into huge play. How the Jarvan ends up landing can be a huge effect, and this is also a 2-star Gangplank.
Here we go. One more fight for Darthnub, potentially. If he can hold on, though, should be 2 lives for Weijin.
Oh,
you see the multis trying to fire off. We already know this match is quite hard. There's the jump in from Jarvan. Does start to get CC, but it's not hitting the backline. The positioning from Weijin does have the carry safe in the corners. Vel'Koz still alive. Doesn't quite have enough burst. It's going to be Xayah. One more cast. Xayah gets there. Darthnub going to take a big hit, but he will hold on for one more. A 1-unit loss was the only way he was living, and he does still live on 1 HP. Can Darthnub make a change that makes all the difference?
So Darthnub swapped the items over to Gangplank in that last fight because it was a Gangplank 2 that was suited up. He said this Vel'Koz 2 is not going to make it. Wage Iverson's holding Vel'Koz. Suddenly, that didn't end up working out very well. So what ends up happening now? Like, does he just suits?
He's got the items for the Vel'Koz as well.
Oh, the Aatrox sitting in the shop.
Could sell the Vel'Kozes. There's no point. I mean, at this, Darthnub already only has 3.
Yeah.
Sell out of the Vel'Koz, get the upgraded Aatrox. This can make a huge difference. Darthnub did get stronger, but I think Weijin definitely did as well. Tier 2 Aatrox can make big things happen.
Jarvan stun is really going to say so much of this. Shroud's in a great spot to slow down this Scion. Scion's in a great spot to make a difference. Where is Sejuani going? I have no idea in this one. First Karma, not a good spot.
Well, that
Xayah,
jump,
not a great hit. Karma's walking forward. She gets struck. Xayah, great angle from that one. Clean and not even close. Wage and Iverson picking up another